Methodology of teaching natural science. Approach, methods and techniques of teaching science, Part 4. Welcome to a class on techniques of teaching in science. In this session, we will be dealing with 4 teaching techniques, namely questioning technique, brainstorming, buzz session and role play. Questioning technique. The art of questioning is the most potent weapon in the educational armory of the teacher. Questioning play an indispensable part in learning, teaching and testing. If used in the right way at the proper time, questions lead to new realms of understanding. Purposes of questions: to test previous knowledge of students, to enable them to recall, recognize, think over, reason about something, to elicit something from students, to stimulate interest and effort on the part of students, to keep children mentally alert, to promote initiative and originality, to stimulate the curiosity of the students, to ascertain whether they are following the lesson or not, to link new knowledge with old, to revise the lesson and thus fix the facts in the minds of the students, to secure the cooperation of the students, to diagnose the weak points of the students, to formulate general rules, to synthesize. Questions can be classified into 4. The first is preliminary questions or introductory questions. These questions are asked at the beginning of the lesson. Its objectives are: test the previous knowledge of the students, link the new knowledge with the already learnt knowledge, motivate the child and arouse his curiosity. Questions should be relevant to the topic. The second is developing questions. These questions are said to be the backbone of the lesson. They are used to develop particular line of thought, to lead the pupils to discover facts for themselves, to formulate new generalizations in an inductive way, to focus attention on important points, to develop knowledge step by step, to enable the students to use their powers of observation, comparison and concentration, to break the narration in order to ensure that the class is following, to make inattentive students attentive. The third is recapitulatory questions. Such questions are generally put at the end of the lesson or at the end of each section of the lesson. Such questions serve 2 purposes: to enable the teacher to know if the children have picked up the ideas the teacher wanted them to learn, to serve the purpose of revision and to give a good opportunity for practice. The fourth type is evaluating or testing questions. These are related to periodic internal as well as external evaluation. Types of questions. Questions can also be divided into the following 15 types: comparison or contrast, decision for or against, application in new situations, classification, relationship between cause and effect, example or illustration, statement of aim, criticism, inference, discussion, definition, recall, summary, observation and formation of new questions. Levels of classroom questions: lower order questions, middle order questions and higher order questions. Characteristics of good questioning. The questions should be asked first and then the student asked to answer it. The main advantage in asking the question first is to set at the whole class thinking to find out the answer. On the other hand, if a particular student is asked to stand or sit, as the case may be, and then the question is put to him, other students may not show much interest. Questions should be evenly distributed. No child should be neglected. At the same time, questions should not be given in a regular order round the class. Generally, there is a tendency to put either too many questions or too less to the students sitting at the back or in the front. Such a tendency should be avoided. Plenty of time should be allowed for pupils to think out of the answer. However, the time allowed will depend on the nature of the question. The inability of a child to answer a question should be accepted. The teacher should avoid to waste a lot of time in trying to get an answer out of a child who cannot answer. A number of questions asked in a rapid-fire manner are upsetting. Brainstorming. Brainstorming is a process for developing creative solutions to problems. Alex Fakeney Osborne, an advertising manager, popularized the method in 1953 in his book Applied Imagination. Brainstorming works by focusing on a problem and then deliberately coming up with as many solutions as possible and by pushing the ideas as far as possible. One of the reasons it is so effective is that the brainstormers not only come up with new ideas in a session but also spark off from associations with other people's ideas by developing and refining them. Under brainstorming, the mind is stimulated to think without any inhibition whatsoever. The ideas are accepted just as they are. They are never rejected during the process of brainstorming, how much inappropriate or even irrelevant they might appear to be. The time for a person to express his ideas is limited to 3 to 5 minutes. The suggestions are taken for comment and close scrutiny subsequently. Everyone is allowed to comment upon, to adopt and to elaborate the idea suggested by others. There are 4 basic rules in brainstorming intended to reduce social inhibitions among team members, stimulate idea generation and increase overall creativity. No criticism. Criticism of ideas are withheld during the brainstorming session as the purpose is on generating varied and unusual ideas and extending or adding to these ideas. Criticism is reversed for the evaluation stage of the process. This allows the members to feel comfortable with the idea of generating unusual ideas. Welcome unusual ideas. Unusual ideas are welcomed as new ways of thinking and looking at the world may provide better solutions. Quantity wanted. The greater the number of ideas generated, the greater the chance of producing a radical and effective solution. Combine and improve ideas. Not only are a variety of ideas wanted, but also ways to combine ideas in order to make them better. Brainstorming in the class situation invariably leads to generation of new ideas and approaches related to the topic studied. This technique is very useful in science because students get immense opportunity to participate and involve in the instructional process and thus to make substantial contribution. Topics like group farming, environmental pollution, etc. can be subjected to thorough discussion by this technique. Characteristics of brainstorming method. This method is based on educational and psychological principles. This method is useful in achieving the high objectives of knowledge and expression. It encourages the students for contemplation and problem solving. It makes use of creative instincts of the students. Collective thinking and discussion helps in giving valuable thoughts. It encourages the students to think independently. This method of teaching is a very creative teaching method and encourages original thinking. Brainstorming is effective for sensitive and controversial issues that need to be explored, encouraging pupils who are quiet and hesitant to enter into discussions, generating a large number of ideas as quickly as possible. Challenges to effective brainstorming. A good deal of research refutes Osborne's claim that group brainstorming could generate more ideas than individuals working alone. Several factors can contribute to a loss of effectiveness in group brainstorming. The first is blocking. Because only one participant may give an idea at any one time, other participants might forget the idea they were going to contribute or not share it because they see it as no longer important or relevant. Second is evaluation apprehension. Evaluation apprehension was determined to occur only in instances of personal evaluation. If the assumption of collective assessment were in place, real-time judgment of ideas failed to induce significant variance. Third is free riding. Individuals may feel that their ideas are less valuable when combined with the ideas of the group at large. The fourth, personality characteristics. Extroverts have been shown to outperform introverts in computer-mediated groups. Extroverts also generated more unique and diverse ideas than introverts when additional methods were used to stimulate idea generation. Fifth, social matching. One phenomenon of group brainstorming is that participants will tend to alter their rate of productivity to match others in the group. This can lead to participants generating fewer ideas in a group setting than they would individually because they will increase their own contributions if they perceive themselves to be more productive than the group average. On the other hand, the same phenomena can also increase an individual's rate of production to meet the group average. Advantages of brainstorming. It leads to a very animated and energizing session. More reserved participants feel free to contribute. It gives pupils the opportunity to think through issues. It promotes a respect for other pupils' ideas. Ideas generated are owned collectively by groups of pupils. Encourages every pupil to express his or her views freely since responses are not judged immediately. It is one way of determining pupils' knowledge before getting into a topic. It is a quick and effective way of generating ideas from pupils. Disadvantages of brainstorming method. It takes time, particularly if it is a large group. It may consume a lot of material, for example, flip charts or writing materials. It requires high-level facilitation skills. Very difficult to ensure that everyone speaks, particularly if the class is large. After the brainstorming session, reorganizing the points or ideas may be time-consuming. Buzz session. The buzz group is a collaborative method that promotes small group interactions among learners. This strategy also helps activate learners' prior knowledge and serves as a method for problem solving. Buzz groups can be integrated into lectures, case discussions and presentations and may be particularly effective in large group sessions. In buzz session, students are split into small groups for a specific period of time to discuss a given issue or topic. Reports of the results of the various buzz groups are then presented to the entire class and a thorough discussion is stimulated. This technique is employed when, in the course of a lecture or some other similar program, the students become very motivated and raise arguments regarding a particular issue. During a longer session, the plenary group can break into subgroups to discuss one or two specific questions or issues. The room soon fills with noise as each subgroup buzzes in discussion. If appropriate, after the discussion, one member of each group can report its findings back to the plenary. Buzz groups can be in pairs, trios or more depending on the activity. People turn to their neighbors for a quick buzz or form larger groups of 3 or more. This allows almost everyone to express an opinion. While they are buzzing, participants are able to exchange ideas and draw on their wide collective experience. It may provide a good opportunity for trainees to reflect on the content of a lecture. A good buzz session will generate many ideas, comments and opinion, the most important of which will be reported back. How to organize a buzz session? A buzz session can be organized in the following manner. Divide the class into subgroups or 6 or 7 in each. The subgroups are then given a minute to select a group leader and a rapporteur. The rapporteur is the person who is responsible to report the activities and summary of discussions to others. The group members are then asked to discuss the topic. After the discussion, all the group members reassemble. The rapporteur of each subgroup then presents before the whole group as short summary of the reactions of the group members. Then, the unsolved problems, if any, are referred back to the subgroup concerned. This is again followed by discussion in the larger group. Finally, the general group reaches a consensus regarding the final solution of the problem under consideration. Guidelines for effective use of buzz groups. Explain the task to be discussed before the class breaks into groups. Organize pupils into mixed ability groups or same ability groups as the need be. Supervise the discussions in the groups so as to encourage and help pupils in difficulty. Manage feedback concisely. Rotate group leadership roles regularly. Try to give different but related tasks to each group to motivate and give each group a special responsibility. If the task is the same for all groups, organize feedback in such a way that one group present their ideas, with other groups only contributing few ideas, or let one group report one point at a time until all the groups have contributed. Be time conscious. Advantages of the buzz session technique. It develops critical thinking among the students. It is an effective way to find out a feasible solution to a problematic situation in a classroom. The discussion always leads to in-depth knowledge in the subject. The technique helps to develop positive attitudes such as democratic outlook, tolerance to different viewpoints, group cohesion, etc. Disadvantages of the buzz session technique. The main obstacle using bus sessions lie in unfamiliarity with their use, the time required, the need for leaders or facilitators within each group, and the need to have tables and chairs arranged for quick and easy discussion. Lack of proper knowledge in the organization of this technique will lead to confusion and hence waste of time. If proper control is not exerted by the teacher, the program would have an adverse effect. It is not applicable at lower level classes. Role play. Role playing method is related to development, knowledge and social dexterity. By this method, change can be brought in the taste, liking, interest, inclination and attitude of the students. In this imitation technique is given importance. In role play, pupils use their own experience and creativity to imitate a real life situation. When done well, role play increases pupils' self-confidence, gives them the opportunity to understand or feel empathy for other people's viewpoints or roles, and usually encourages them to come up with practical answers, solutions or guidelines on various issues. Pupils act out what they would say or do in a given situation. The acting can last 5 to 10 minutes. Other pupils watch and listen carefully. After the role play, they discuss the performance. The situation is then discussed. Pupils may raise and discuss questions such as, does this happen in our community? Who or what causes this problem? How can it be solved and who can solve it? However, role plays can be time consuming and their success depends on the willingness of participants to take active part. Some pupils may feel a role play is too exposing, threatening or embarrassing. This reluctance may be overcome at the outset by careful explanation of the objectives and the outcome. Some role plays can generate strong emotions amongst the participants. It is therefore essential that a role play is followed by a thorough debriefing. This provides the opportunity for the trainer and the participants to raise and assess new issues. What guidelines would you follow when using role play? Guidelines for role play are as follows. Give a description of the role and the situation briefly to the entire group. Ask for volunteers or appoint pupils to act out the role play. Tell the players that they can add to their roles and use their own ideas about what the person would say or feel in the situation. Give the actors a few minutes to prepare and let them act out the play within 5 to 10 minutes. After the role play, the class should discuss the performance. De-roll the pupils afterwards to avoid the pupils getting stuck with the names and roles they assumed in the play. To de-roll, you may briefly explain that the roles and names the acting pupils took in the role play are not part of the pupils' real life. The acting pupils have not taken on new names or roles. Characteristics of role play. The students get a chance to express their inner feelings. They enjoy the act. This gives them recreation. Their attitudes are developed and also undergo change. It is useful in lower classes also. It is related to human relationships. It helps in development of emotions, body expressions and development of appreciation. Expected objectives, both knowledge and social, are achieved. It is an imitation of an experience which can be made real. Advantages of role play. They are good energizers. It promotes empathy of pupils for other situations. It encourages creativity in learning. Disadvantages of role play. Participants might be reluctant. They may not work with pupils who do not know each other well. It is a formal method. It is more helpful with small children. It does not help in development of specialized skills. The students work in an artificial atmosphere where it is not possible to change it into reality. Now let us summarize. In this session, we have dealt with the questioning technique, brainstorming, buzz session and role play as techniques of teaching science. We have discussed the general characteristics, method, guidelines, advantages and disadvantages of the 4 techniques. Now here are some assignments for you to work on. Select areas in the curriculum where buzz groups can be used and prepare a lesson on one area reflecting the technique. Which are the different types of questions to be included in the questioning technique? How can you make brainstorming effective? What are the advantages and disadvantages of a buzz session? What guidelines would you follow when using role play? Here are some books for your further reference. Collaborative Fixation, Effects of Others' Ideas on Brainstorming by N. John and S. M. Smith from the journal Applied Cognitive Psychology 2012. A simple dynamic model of social factors in group brainstorming by V. Brown and P. B. Paulus from the journal Small Group Research 1996. Science Learning and Drama Processes by J. E. Butler from the journal Science Education 1989. Science Scenarios Using Role Playing to Make Science More Meaningful by L. Cronin Jones from The Science Teacher 2000. Thank you for watching this program. See you with a new topic next time. Bye.